At 30 years old, Arman stood in the middle of his small village in Punjab with empty pockets, unpaid debts, and a heart full of shame. He had once believed he would become rich before 30, but life had a different plan. If you have ever felt left behind while others moved ahead, stay with me, because this story might change the way you see your own struggle. Before we go further, make sure you like this video and subscribe to MindShift Tales, because stories like this can quietly reshape your future. Arman was not lazy, and he was not foolish. He was simply impatient. In his early 20s, he left his village with big dreams and borrowed money from relatives to start a small electronics shop in a nearby town. For a year, business was good, and people praised him as the smartest young man from the village. Then competition grew, prices dropped, and Arman made risky decisions to save face. Within 2 years, the shop closed and the loans remained. When he returned to the village at 30, people whispered behind his back. The same men who once admired him now shook their heads with pity. His father, a simple wheat farmer, said nothing, but the silence hurt more than any insult. Arman felt like a failure every morning when he woke up to the sound of roosters and village life. Across the dusty road lived his childhood friend Samir, who had never left the village. Samir worked slowly and steadily on his family's small dairy farm. He did not earn much, but he never borrowed beyond his limits. One evening, Arman sat under the old banyan tree near the mosque and confessed his frustration to Samir. "I am 30 and broke," Arman said quietly. Samir replied, "You are 30 and alive. That is still something." Arman laughed bitterly, thinking it was just village comfort talk. But Samir continued, explaining how he had spent the last 10 years learning about livestock care, milk supply chains, and saving small amounts every month. There was no big success story in Samir's life, only small improvements. That night, Arman could not sleep. He kept thinking about patience, something he had always ignored. The next morning, instead of dreaming about another big business, he asked Samir if he could help at the dairy farm. It was not a glamorous job. He cleaned sheds, carried feed, and delivered milk to nearby towns on a motorcycle that often broke down. Villagers were surprised to see the once ambitious businessman doing such simple work. Some mocked him, but this time Arman stayed silent. For the first time in years, he decided to focus on learning instead of proving himself. Months passed, and Arman began to understand the rhythm of village economics. He saw how small margins could grow into steady income if managed carefully. He learned how to treat sick animals, how to negotiate with shopkeepers, and how to build trust with customers. At night, he watched free business lessons on his old smartphone using slow internet. He wrote down ideas in a worn notebook. Instead of chasing fast money, he studied systems. After 1 year, Arman suggested improving the packaging of their milk and creating a simple brand name. Samir hesitated, but Arman promised they would not borrow money. They used savings to print basic labels and started delivering directly to homes in a nearby town. The response was slow at first. Some customers ignored them. Others complained about minor issues. But Arman did not quit this time. He listened carefully, adjusted their service, and kept going. By the time he turned 32, their customer base had doubled. It was not wealth, but it was progress. Arman felt something new growing inside him, a quiet confidence built on effort rather than ego. 3 years later, they added yogurt and butter to their products. Arman handled marketing through simple social media posts, showing real photos from their village farm. People appreciated the honesty. Urban families liked buying from farmers directly. Income increased slowly but steadily. Arman paid off half of his old debt without telling many people. He did not want applause anymore. At 35, he faced another challenge when a disease spread among cattle in nearby villages. Many farmers suffered heavy losses. Arman and Samir acted quickly because they had learned about preventive care. They invested in vaccinations early, even when others doubted the expense. Their animals survived. That year, while others struggled, their supply remained stable. New customers came to them because they trusted reliability. Arman realized that patience was not passive. It was active preparation. By 36, he had cleared all his old debts. He visited the relatives who once whispered about him and repaid every remaining rupee with respect. Some were surprised, others embarrassed, but Arman felt free. His father's eyes held quiet pride for the first time in many years. The dairy business expanded into a small processing unit at the edge of the village. They hired local young men who were once planning to leave for cities without skills. Arman trained them personally, sharing mistakes from his past. He often said, "Speed can impress people, but consistency builds wealth." By 38, the brand that started with simple printed labels was supplying to 3 nearby towns. They never took reckless loans. They reinvested profits and kept emergency savings. Arman still lived in the same modest house, but his mindset had completely changed. At 40, his net worth was something he once dreamed about in his 20s. He was not a billionaire, but he was financially secure, respected, and at peace. Villagers now invited him to speak to young men about business and patience. He always began his talks with honesty about failure at 30. He explained how embarrassment had been his greatest teacher. He told them that persistence is boring, and that is why most people avoid it. But boring habits create extraordinary results over time. One evening, as he sat again under the banyan tree, Arman thought about the version of himself who once chased quick success. He felt gratitude for the slow years. Without them, he would never have learned discipline. Without debt, he would never have respected money. Without mockery, he would never have built inner strength. If you are watching this and feel behind in life, remember Arman at 30, standing with empty pockets in a dusty village. Your current chapter is not your final chapter. Patience does not mean waiting without action. It means working quietly while results take time to appear. If this story touched you, comment below with the age at which you decided to change your life. Share this story with someone who feels stuck right now. And if you want more real stories about growth and mindset, stay connected with MindShift Tales. Because sometimes the journey from broke at 30 to wealthy at 40 is not about luck. It is about learning to stay when others run, to build when others complain, and to believe when results are still invisible.